inshallah. This is a inshallah about the computer and network. From there, we will also consider what are the possible directions for security or information security. What are the different job perspectives? What are the different fields that you can pursue? And proceed from there, inshallah. Just quickly to brief you about myself. My name is Dr. Marwan Abu Amara. I've been with KFPM since 2003. I have taught many courses in the area of computer networking as well as computer and network security. My field of interest in research is in the area of, again, computer networks as well as in computer and network security. So without any further ado, we'll proceed with providing what are the outlines of what we will cover today. We're not going to cover every single slide. We'll briefly go over them just to help you understand the general area of cybersecurity and information security. And then I'll open the floor for questions and answers. And feel free to ask during the presentation or during the talk. If you have any question, go ahead and ask it. So we'll start out by an introduction, followed by talking about crypto, what we mean by this. We'll discuss a few classical crypto systems, then what are the requirements, the taxonomy, symmetric key, what are the differences between symmetric key crypto systems, public key crypto systems, and then move on to network security, specifically authentication protocols. And then finally, we'll finish off with discussion around cybersecurity related fields and what are the different certifications that you can pursue, the different job perspectives that you could look for. And then finish off with the question and answer, inshallah. Okay. So this is a classical setup whenever any person takes a course or a study in information security in general, which is to start out by outlining a set of cast of characters. Specifically, we're looking at good guys, and followed, in this case, we're going to refer to Alice and Bob as being the good guys, meaning that these are two sides that wish to exchange information securely between them. Okay? And they don't have any malicious intentions in exchanging the information. Then we have the bad guy, that we're going to refer to as Trudy. Just quickly, I need to let you know, Trudy is a female name, and the picture here shows two males. The idea is, guys, we don't know how many of them there are out there. Is it a single person, group of people, a whole institution, a whole country for that matter? We don't know who the bad guy is. And plus, we don't know the actual gender of who is acting as a bad guy. So the bad guy, in this case, Trudy, is in the business of causing trouble to Alice and Bob. Okay, what type of trouble we'll explain as we go along, inshallah. Okay. So Trudy is our generic intruder who's in the business of creating problems. To illustrate what we are looking for, when we talk about information security, we're talking about cyber security. What is it? What's our objective? What is it that we're trying to do? Okay. To illustrate this, we'll quickly present this example here. And hopefully through the example, we'll try to identify basic needs in security and then look for additional needs in security. Suppose that Alice wants, Alice is one of the good guys. Alice wants to open an online banking system as a business. Okay, so she created an online banking system, and she wants people or customers to join her online banking system. Among those would be Bob, okay, another good guy. Now, from the perspective of Alice, what is it that she is concerned about from security perspective? As an owner of the online banking system, she is obviously mostly concerned with not allowing anyone to modify the system that she created without authorization. So she doesn't want people to modify the software of the online banking system. She doesn't want people installing additional software, removing elements of that system. So that's one of the major concerns of Alice, because if this is allowed without any authorization from Alice, then it can be catastrophic for her business. She might go out of business because such an activity is taking place. On the other hand, from Bob's perspective, Bob being a customer of the online banking system, of Alice's online banking system, he's mostly concerned about his account, his bank account in this online banking system. He doesn't want people to see how much he has in his account, the fact that he is broke, that he has nothing in his account. Also, he's probably or definitely is concerned that he doesn't want people to withdraw money from his account, right? He will be happy if people will deposit money, but obviously he doesn't want to have people withdrawing money from his account without his authorization or without his permission. From Trudy's perspective, who is the bad guy, what is it that she's trying to do? Trudy is just in the business of causing trouble. So the trouble could be as simple as just seeing the transaction taking place between Alice's system and Bob as he logs in and he looks at his account and does some financial transactions and what have you. So it could be as simple as being able to see all these activities taking place. She might want to do more than that by trying to illegally access one of the accounts on that online banking system. She might want to do even further than that. She might want to, again, attempt and modify some of the online banking system software, maybe install a virus, maybe install a malware, maybe delete some files, modify some files, and what have you. Trudy might also think about, okay, let's try and see if we can prevent customers from being able to access their accounts, because we are busying the system to a point that the system is unable to respond to requests coming from legitimate customers, such as Bob. So the system is too busy with interaction with Trudy, to the point that the system is unable to entertain any other additional incoming requests from legitimate customers, such as Bob. So you could see now there are different security concerns that we have to worry about. And to summarize those concerns and to summarize the basic needs of information security, we state that we have to, at least in any system, to tackle the aspect of security, we have to worry about at least 3 major things. These are summarized by the letter CIA. This is not the CIA that you know out of movies and what have you. No, it stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay. Just quickly to understand each of those three terms without going again into too much details. Confidentiality means that we want to prevent the unauthorized reading of information. For example, we don't want Trudy to be able to access Bob's account and see the contents or read the account balance of Bob or see how much Bob has in his account. So we want to prevent Trudy from being able to do so, from reading how much or seeing how much Bob has in his account. To achieve this, we can utilize cryptography, and we'll explain what cryptography means. Integrity, on the other hand, we're trying to detect unauthorized writing of information, meaning modification to the contents, let's say, of Bob's account. And here we're saying detection because trying to prevent such unauthorized writing is almost impossible. Because all Trudy needs to do is just modify one bit from being 0 to 1 or 1 to 0, and that makes it right away unpreventable. The least that we could do here for integrity is to detect unauthorized modification of information. And if we can detect it, then we can say, okay, something went wrong, something is not correct. This is not the original information that we have, and therefore we will reject it and try to do something else. How to achieve integrity? Again, cryptography is our tool to achieve that. Finally, in terms of the availability, we're trying to allow for the system to be available whenever the system is needed. So in the case of the online banking system, if Bob is unable to access his account due to the fact that the system is so busy and servicing the requests coming from Trudy, then obviously Bob will take his business elsewhere. If he cannot access his account in a timely manner, then he will just close his account and move his business somewhere else. So availability is also a major concern from security perspective. Now, these are three fundamental things that we have to ensure in a system to be secure. But these are, as we say, these are necessary, but they are not sufficient. We have a lot more things to worry about, but these are the fundamental ones that we have to have in a system to be secure. So beyond CIA, we have to worry about, okay, how do we verify that when someone is attempting to access Bob's account, that person is indeed Bob. So this is what we refer to as authorization, okay? Authentication. I'm sorry. So we're trying to verify the identity of the person and checking and verifying that they are who they claim to be. Typically, we use for examples on how do we do this. We use username and password to verify the identity of a person. The other thing is that, okay, you might think about this aspect of verification of the identity when a person attempts to access his smartphone, his laptop, his desktop, or what have you. That's one level. But the other level, as in the example of the online banking, we're trying to verify the identity over a network. And the problems associated with trying to verify the identity of a person to a machine that he is directly interacting with versus one in which he has to use a network to verify his identity. The two cases are completely different in the level of how difficult they are. The one that involves network has a lot more things that you have to worry about, things like someone eavesdropping on the packets that are being exchanged between Bob and the Alice's online banking, someone intercepting the packets, deleting them, injecting false packets, and so on and so forth. Versus in the case when you're trying to verify your identity to your smartphone or to your laptop or what have you that you have direct connectivity to or contact with. Many of those problems like eavesdropping and injecting traffic, removing traffic, modifying traffic, do not exist. Such problems do not exist. So we have to then think about, okay, how do we verify the identity of a person over a network? And that brings up the topic of network security. Okay, so network security comes from the fact that, okay, we need to verify the identity of one side to the other, possibly both sides to each other. But at least we want to verify the identity of one side to the other side so that we can proceed with exchanging sensitive information or exchanging information secretly or securely. The aspect of verifying the identity is referred to as authentication, meaning that we want to verify that you are who you claim to be. That falls under a major category called access control. So you're trying to control the access. That's one element of access control, authentication, verifying the identity. The other element is authorization. So now you have been authenticated, you have your identity have been verified, and now you have access to the system. So for example, Bob has been authenticated. He has an account on Alice's online banking, and he submitted his credentials. He was verified that he is who he claims to be. Now, once Bob has access to his account on the Alice's online banking system, what is he allowed to do? And he has access to the system. Obviously, you don't want Bob to go beyond just checking his account. You don't want Bob to go and check the system files, to go into the directories of the online backup, to limit what Bob can do. And this is what we refer to as authorization. What is Bob authorized to do on a system? Okay. Now, of this is from the technical point of view, and we can address it from a technical point of view. But then we have the people problem. So what is the people problem? People problem, simply put, is the fact, okay, you set up your system to take care of CIA, the confidentiality, integrity, availability. You took care of access control, you put everything, and you feel that your system is perfect. And then comes along the user. And now the user's behavior may break the security of the system. So the different components that you have put into the system to achieve the security aspects and objectives that you're looking for may be perfectly fine. Everything should be working properly. But the behavior of the user of such a system may cause a security problem. Okay, just to give you an example, and suppose that you want to buy something from noon.com. I don't have any affiliation with noon.com, but I mean just as an example. So what do you do typically? You open up your browser, you type in noon.com, and since noon.com is an online shopping website, then it uses a secure protocol called SSL, Secure Socket Layer, to ensure that, okay, as you supply your purchase or the method of how you're going to buy the items that you have selected, that such information will not be stolen will not be taken by Trudy, for example. So SSL achieves this level of security. Now, there could be cases where Trudy interjects or puts herself in the middle between you and noon.com website. Okay, so now and we refer to this type of setup as man-in-the-middle attack. Okay, so SSL, the protocol on which we rely on to do the security aspect of online shopping and basically for any secure HTTP browsing or web browsing, has mechanisms to detect if there is something wrong in the protocol, in the behavior of what is taking place in the protocol. So a man-in-the-middle attack will be detected by SSL. Now, what happens if such an attack is detected is basically SSL will report back that, okay, there is something wrong in the exchange or the SSL protocol exchange, and this line is insecure. Okay, so then the action are due to be. You probably have experienced this, but what the browser will do is it will display a page for you saying, okay, there's a problem, security problem with this website. We recommend that you do not go further. But then it gives you an option at the bottom if you wish to proceed. And it tells you if you press then proceed on your own. The problem comes today is the majority of people, they get annoyed by seeing this page, right? And what they do is they go ahead and click on the button or the link that says, okay, proceed on your own risk. And if they do so, and it was truly a man-in-the-middle attack, then such an action by the user breaks the SSL protocol. So SSL protocol itself is verified as being secure, but the behavior of the user lent or made SSL insecure. So it's not a problem in the protocol itself, it's a problem in the behavior of the user. Now, how do we deal with this? I mean, this is beyond the technical aspect. This has to do with educating people on what they should do in such cases and what have you. And at the end of the day, this is unfortunately something that is going to be unavoidable in many situations. Okay. Right. Now, so just to proceed further without going again into too much details, we stated that cryptography is our method to ensuring confidentiality and integrity. For availability, there are other techniques or other tools to it. So just quickly, we want to understand what we mean by cryptography, what do we mean by crypto and what have you. So these are people say that cryptology is the science of making and breaking secret codes. And so cryptology encompasses two things, cryptography and cryptanalysis. Cryptography is concerned with making secret codes. Okay, and we'll explain why do we need these secret codes. Cryptanalysis is concerned with breaking the secret codes. Okay, in other words, we are trying to see if you can break the system and get access to the sensitive information. The term crypto means any of the above. So if you're not sure, you could just say crypto for that matter. Now, furthermore, when we say that a cipher or a crypto system is used, then that system is used to encrypt plain text. What do you mean by encrypt? يعني Arabic هو التشفير. So basically, what you're doing is you're feeding information. We refer to information sensitive. Now, this sensitive information could be actual text, could be audio file, could be video file, could be live streaming, could be anything that you feel is sensitive and you want to protect. We just refer to it as plain text. Now, as you feed it into this crypto system or this cipher, the crypto system is supposed to encrypt this plain text, this sensitive information, and generate something that is, when you look at it, it's uncomprehendable. We refer to what gets generated as a ciphertext. So Arabic يعني مشفر. After you apply encryption, you get that is not readable. That is not something that you can. If the original information was an actual text, then the ciphertext you cannot read. If it was an audio file, you cannot play the audio file. If it was a video file, you cannot play the video file, and so on. Okay. Now, on the receiving end of this ciphertext, so this ciphertext is sent to the other side. So, for example, Alice encrypts her sensitive information, generates ciphertext. The ciphertext is sent over to Bob. Now, Bob wants to retrieve the original sensitive information, so he has to decrypt the ciphertext to recover the original sensitive information. Now, to set up this crypto system, to do this encryption and decryption, we need a key. We need a secret code. This secret code is key for making sure that no one other than Alice and Bob will be able to do the encryption and decryption. Okay, so through the use of this key, which should be kept secret, this key is known to Alice, known to Bob, and should be kept secret by them, so that no one else can understand the result of the encryption. No one can decrypt the ciphertext other than Alice and Bob themselves. Now, depending on the type of key that is being used, we create two different crypto systems. One is called symmetric key. The other one is called a public key crypto system. Symmetric key, just to help you understand the symmetric key crypto system, is similar to, you have a door, you have a lock on the door, so you use a key to lock the door. To unlock the door, so once you lock the door, no one can enter the room, or no one can enter the house unless they have that key. To enter the room or to enter the house, you need the same key to unlock the door and be able to enter the room or the house. So both sides, so if, let's say, Alice and Bob want to enter the same room, the room has sensitive contents, information, or it has money or what have you. Then, for example, Alice goes and locks the door. She has the key. She locks the door. Bob comes at a later time, has the same key. He has a copy of the same key that Alice has, and goes and locks the door and enters the room. As long as only Alice and Bob have that key, then no one can enter the room. The same deal here for symmetric key crypto system. Now, public key crypto system is a little bit of mind-boggling. Okay, in public key crypto system, we have actually two keys. We have one key to lock the door and a different key to unlock the door. Obviously, we don't have something similar in real life. But think of it as, okay, Alice comes in and she locks the door with her key. Bob has another key that is used only for unlocking the doors. So the key that Alice has is only used for locking doors and cannot be used for unlocking doors. And the key that Bob has will be used to unlock the door. And only Bob has that key that will help unlock the door. No one else has it. Okay. So we refer to the key that Alice has as public key. Why do we call it public key? Because anyone could have that key. And as long as they have that key, they can encrypt the plain text, encrypt the cipher, encrypt the sensitive information, and send it over to Bob. Bob has the private key, the key that should be kept by him, and only by that private key we will be able to do decryption, and accordingly Bob keeps his private key private, thus the name private key. Only Bob knows about it, and only the person who has the private key, in this case Bob, will be able to decrypt any ciphertext received by him. Okay. So just to put this in a picture, this is the setup we have of the system. So we have an encryption box, we have a decryption box. The encryption box accepts the plain text, the sensitive information, could be real text, audio file, video file, whatever it is. And then we use a key to do the encryption. So there's some algorithm here that accepts the plain text as an input, accepts a key as another input, and then it does its work and generates an output. The output generated is a ciphertext. That ciphertext is sent to the other side. Obviously, the other side is interested in the original plain text, in the original sensitive information. So that ciphertext will be fed to the decryption box, which accepts as a second input the key, and then it does its inner workings and ultimately generates the plain text. Now note here that we're showing key 1 and key 2. In the case of symmetric key, both key 1 and key 2 are exactly the same. So the key that is used for encryption is also used for decryption. For public key, no, key 1 is different than key 2. So there's one key for encryption, another for decryption. Okay. Right. We don't need to go over the basic assumptions. This is something that we cover in an actual course. Just to give you a hint about what's a crypto system. Crypto systems have existed long time ago, even before the computer age. So here's one sample of what we refer to as a classical crypto system, something that has been used even before the existence of computers. This is what we refer to as a simple substitution. What do you mean by simple substitution? Take the English alphabet letters, okay, A through Z. What we're going to do is we're going to shift each of those letters. So in order to encrypt plain text and assume that, for simplicity, that we're going to feed an actual text to this crypto system, to this simple substitution crypto system, we're going to feed an actual text, meaning it will consist of letters out of the English alphabet. What we're going to do in terms of encryption is we're going to take each of those letters that appear in the plain text and replace it with something else, with another letter from the English alphabet, such that we do it in a sort of a consistent way. So, for example, A will be replaced with H. So if you check the distance between A and H, so A, that's 1, B, that's 2, C, that's 3, D, that's 4, E, that's 5, F, that's 6, G, that's 7. So we're shifting by 7, if you will, from A to H. So in other words, A will be replaced by H. B will be replaced by the next letter after H, which is the I. Again, the difference is 7. C is replaced with J, and so on and so forth. as we reach towards the end, S is replaced with Z. Now T is replaced with A. So it's like a circular replacement. So now for every letter A that appears in the original plain text, it will be replaced by the letter H. And that appears in the cipher text. Every letter in the plain text, every letter B in the plain text will be replaced by the letter I that appears in the cipher text, and so on and so forth. Okay, now you could choose shift by how many. The possibilities would be from 0 to 25 because the English letters are a total of 26 letters. If you will. So this was shift by 7. Now, if, for example, given this ciphertext, okay, you look at this. This was generated out of encryption using the previous slide. You look at this, you cannot understand what was the original plain text. So one way is to try to attack it by trying the different possibilities. Since the number of shifts are limited to only 26 possible shifts, you could try all possible shifts until you see the origin, what was the original plain text. Okay, so that's what we refer to as exhaustive key search. And the reason that this is successful here is we have only limited possibilities for the key. The key in this case is the number of shifts, or the shift by number. Since the shift by number is only limited to 26 possibilities, you could try this, and with today's computational power, you could do this very easily. Right? You could write a small program and it'll do it for you. When you try all possible combinations of the key, we refer to this as an exhaustive key search. So we should avoid doing that. You could try to enlarge the key size by, for example, in this case, by trying different permutations. Doing different permutations results in 2 to the 88 possible keys. That will take a long time. And if you want to understand how long it will take thousands of years to actually break it. Okay. However, Trudy is clever. Trudy doesn't. Trudy understands that trying exhaustive key search here will not work. Okay, it'll take too much time, too long of a time, and that she will not be able to figure out what the key. However, what she can do is she can be clever about it. Instead of trying all these many different possibilities, what she can do is, knowing that the original text is plain text, and knowing that, okay, in the English language, and likewise in the Arabic language, there are certain letters that appear more frequently than others in any normal text. And subsequently, she looks at the English letter frequency counts. This is for the English letter, this is typical letter frequency counts. So you could see that, for example, the letter E has the highest appearance in any text, followed by the letter T. So this is the letter T, followed by the letter A, and so on and so forth. So what Trudy will do then is she will look at the ciphertext, look at what is the most commonly appearing letter, and say that, okay, that letter is originally the letter E. And then the next commonly appearing letter, that would be the letter T, and so on and so forth. So she doesn't have to go through, and she does what we refer to as a shortcut attack to this crypto system, and avoid having to go through an exhaustive key search. Okay, we don't need to go through all these systems. Just here by what are the crypto requirements? What do we want out of a crypto system to achieve confidentiality, to achieve integrity? We need, more importantly, that the key should be long enough to make exhaustive key search infeasible, meaning that it will take too long of a time to do it. We want no shortcut attack to our crypto system, such as in the case of the frequency analysis that we explained. And another thing that we have not talked about is the fact that you should not reuse the key over and over. If you continue to use the same key for encryption over and over, there is another type of attack that will make use of this fact that you are continuously using the same key over and over for encryption, and the attacker can ultimately discover what was the original key based on the fact that you are continuously using the same key. Okay. Quickly to talk about crypto taxonomy, what we mean by this, what are the major crypto systems that are out there. We stated two of them, symmetric key and public key. Symmetric key, both encryption and decryption use the same key for encryption and decryption. For public key, you use one key for encryption, another for decryption. Okay. Now, what are the advantages of each of those? The symmetric key, the major advantage is that the operations are computationally very simple. Okay, so they don't take too much time to do the encryption or do decryption. On the other hand, public key, the computationals are a lot more complex than in the case of symmetric key. The disadvantage of symmetric key is, okay, note that we said that the same key should be available for the side who's doing encryption and should be also available to the side who is doing decryption. And that key needs to be shared secretly between the two sides. Now, the ultimate question is, how do you share that key secretly between the two sides? And a more interesting question is, okay, if you're able to share that key secret between the two sides, between Alice and Bob, why can't you use the same method that allowed you to share that key secretly between Alice and Bob to exchange information secretly? So the same method that you have used for sharing this key secretly between Alice and Bob, you could have used it also for sharing the sensitive information. So why go and worry about building a symmetric key crypto system? Such questions we typically answer in the computer and network security course. This is my advertising time slot at this point. So such questions we answer in the course in detail. So we said that the disadvantage of symmetric key is the fact that you need to share a key secretly, and that's not an easy task. For public key, we said the computational aspect is more complex than symmetric key, and that's a disadvantage. But the advantage is the fact that now, because you have one key for encryption, and that key, you don't care if it is made public or not. Because to do decryption, you need the private key, and the private key is kept private by only one side, and therefore there is no sharing of that private key. And subsequently, we don't have the problem of attempting to share a key between two sides. That's non-existent. And a third element under crypto system that we typically incorporate is crypto hash algorithms. And it can be viewed as one-way crypto. It can do almost the same things as what you could do with the symmetric key crypto system. We don't talk much about it here, but in the computer network security, we definitely do. We will not go over the cryptanalysis taxonomy, which talks about the different types of attacks that Trudy may attempt to do, but it's listed there. Again, we'll skip most of the details of symmetric key, public key, just to give you an idea of an example of a symmetric key crypto system. We have In today's world, the most commonly used symmetric key crypto system is what is known as Advanced Encryption Standard, or AES. You divide your plain text. Remember, your plain text could be actual text, audio file, video file. The video file could be 4 GB, for example, byte. You break it into blocks of fixed size. In the case of AES, you break it into 128 bits. Okay? Blocks of 128 bits. And then you use the key length that you use in AES, the symmetric key that is used in AES. You could choose between 128 bits, 192 bits, or 256 bits. Obviously, the larger the size of the key, the more time it will require to break that key, to find, to do an exhaustive key search. These values will take you millions of years before you can break the key, before you find the key. Okay. For public key, as stated, we have two keys. The sender uses recipient's public key, for example, Bob's public key to encrypt. So Alice, being the sender, uses Bob's public key to encrypt something that she wants to send over to Bob. And the recipient, being Bob, uses his own private key to decrypt what he receives from Alice as a ciphertext. Okay. Again, we're not going to go into details. The most commonly, most famous method or public key crypto system is RSA. The RSA stands for the names, the first letters of the names of the authors of such public key crypto system. They are Rivest, Shamir, and Adelman. From all three are used to be in MIT. And we will not go into details of how RSA works, and what have you, but just understand again that RSA is a public key crypto system. So there's a public key and a private key. And the public key is made public. You could post it on your website, you could publish it, you could hand it over as a piece of paper included in your email, what have you. There is no harm in giving it out. What you need to keep secret is the private key. Okay, and no one can do decryption of a ciphertext that was generated by using your public key, except the one who holds the private key, and that should be you and you alone in that case. Right? We typically give examples and just to prove the point. We'll just skip those. Now, Diffie-Hellman is an interesting algorithm that is used to exchange keys securely between two sides. So remember when we talked about symmetric key and the problem of how do you exchange a key secretly or securely between two sides? Well, Diffie-Hellman attempts to do so. Okay, and it does so by incorporating a hard mathematical problem where two sides ultimately agree on the same key. So they exchange things between them such that ultimately, so basically in Diffie-Hellman, what is known as being public are two things, a value G and a prime number P. And then Alice picks at random some value A. Bob picks at random a value B. Each one keeps that value secret to him and herself. And what Alice will do is she will send out G to the A mod P to Bob. So she computes this, sends it over to Bob. Note that the result of this computation hides the value A. Okay, so you send the result of this computation. You don't send the individual elements of that. Obviously, G and P are public. Everyone knows about it. Now, what is not known is A. And you send the result of this computation over to Bob. Bob, similar thing. He sends G to the B mod P, the result of that, over to Alice. Now, when each side receives what the other side have sent him or her, what is that Alice, for example, once she receives this from Bob, she will compute, she will take the result and raise it to her own random value A, and ultimately result in this value. Bob will do the same thing. He will take what he received from Alice, raise it to his own random number B, and that will result in the same value that Alice has computed. Which means that now these two values have been agreed upon between Alice and Bob, and this value is the key that is now being used as a symmetric key between the two sides. Okay, so this seems to solve the problem, but unfortunately, Diffie-Hellman is not not immune to man-in-the-middle attack. So if Trudy comes in the middle, then the whole thing breaks out. So the details on, and that's something again we cover in detail in the security course that we have. Now just quickly, I mean, for the aspect of time, we'll go into briefly what is it that we're looking for in terms of network security. Remember that we needed network security to do authentication over an insecure channel, over the internet, for example, over a network that is insecure. So we need these network security protocols to achieve authentication. Okay, and without giving again this detail here or this example as a detail, what we want out of the authentication protocols is the following. We want that every time that we that one side attempts to authenticate, every time that we want to authenticate one side to the other, we want to prove the freshness of this verification step. Okay, that is very important to prevent something called replay attacks. Okay, so because the verification steps require that you supply some information that only you will know, then we want that information to be fresh every time. Because if you supply it once and you do not ask for a fresh, secure information from that side, then someone, for example, Trudy, could record it the first time and just play it again the next time. So she can come at a later time and claim that she is, for example, Alice wants to verify herself to Bob. So Bob says, okay, send me something to prove that you are Alice. So Alice sends something that she only she knows. If every time Alice needs to supply the same thing, then Trudy can just simply record it the first time, and then at a later time she can claim to be Alice and tell Bob, okay, I am Alice. Bob will ask what he thinks is Alice, but in reality, in Trudy, asks to send the secret information that proves that indeed she's Alice. Trudy will happily supply what she has recorded, and Bob will think that the other side is Alice when in reality it is Trudy. So we need freshness of this proof that is being sent to the other side. That's a major requirement. The other requirement is that we don't want someone to do the work that you are supposed to be doing to help prove your authentication or your identity. Okay, this is a minor detail that we go into, or a major detail, as a matter of fact, that we go into the course, but for lack of time, we will not be able to illustrate it further. The whole setup of network security protocols is built around what is known as challenge response. That will help prevent replays, and the challenge response must be or the response must always be fresh. Okay. If we lose this aspect of freshness, then replay attacks will be possible. Is that all what we care about in terms of the network security protocols, just to do authentication? No, actually, we have the purpose of secure network protocols are two things. One is to achieve authentication, and authentication could be one way or could be mutual. So, for example, we could authenticate your machine or let's say, noon.com server to your machine. That would be one way. Or if in some cases we want to do the opposite as well. Okay, and that would be considered to be mutual authentication. Now, once authentication is achieved, whether it is one way or mutual, then at the end of the authentication, what we want to do is we want to establish a symmetric key between the two sides. That symmetric key will be used for the purpose of encrypting and decrypting the sensitive information that will be exchanged. For example, supplying credit card numbers or financial information or what have you. Okay. So for the purposes of doing encryption and decryption, typically we use symmetric key operations, and therefore for symmetric key operations, we want a key to be shared between the two sides. Well, through the network protocol, the secure network protocol, at the end of the authentication, we establish that secure shared key, symmetric key between the two sides. And then afterwards, these two sides can exchange information securely by encrypting using the symmetric key, and on the receiving end, decrypting using the same symmetric key that has been established. Okay. Just to give you an idea of real-life network protocols, secure network protocols, we have the two famous ones are SSH and SSL. SSH is a secure shell. The secure shell, basically, it creates a secure tunnel between two sides. So, for example, if you want to do a remote login to another machine, if you do it directly over the internet is not secure. Okay, so in order to secure the path from you to the other remote machine, we need to establish a secure channel or a secure tunnel, if you will, between the two sides. SSH comes in and does so. Okay, so it creates this secure channel, and it does so by doing mutual authentication, and then ultimately establishing a secure shared key between the two sides, where that secure shared key will be used for encryption and decryption of whatever is being exchanged between your machine and the remote machine. A prime example or tool that uses that incorporates SSH is PuTTY. I don't know if you have used it before, but PuTTY can be used to do secure remote login to a distant machine. And it uses SSH. An option through it allows you to use SSH to establish this secure tunnel to the remote machine. The other important secure network protocol is secure socket layer, or SSL. If you have taken a course in networking, then you know, for example, that HTTP, the protocol used for browsing the internet, is not secure. Okay? As a matter of fact, everything in it is just plain text, and you could read it easily. And it's written in plain text. The commands, the contents of the messages exchange and what have you, all are in plain text. So if you intercept them, then you could easily read the contents of what is being exchanged. To secure HTTP, SSL was created. The secure socket layer was created. which will run, which will allow HTTP to run on top of that secure socket layer to create what we know today as the HTTPS. HTTPS is the secure version of HTTP, which is nothing but using HTTP, the protocol that we use for browsing the internet, for surfing the internet, on top of this secure socket layer, which allows one-way authentication only. Okay, it authenticates the server to the client. It authenticates noon.com server to your machine, and not the other way around. Okay. So again, without going into the details of this, just that is just quickly an overview of information security. This is the building blocks for the larger topic of cybersecurity. For that, let's quickly consider what are the different cybersecurity security related fields. So the different cybersecurity related fields include, and those are the major ones. There are a lot more than that, but these are the major ones. You have the information security, including computer and network security, and this is what we described earlier. Then you have the ethical hacking, penetration testing, and then finally we have the digital forensics. So we already talked about the information security in the previous slides. Quickly about the ethical hacking and penetration testing. What we are attempting to do here is we are attempting to look into a system that's supposed to be secure. For example, you go to an enterprise or a company's network, and you're trying to audit that network and see if it has any security holes, any vulnerabilities, any security issues related to the setup of their network. Okay, so what you're trying to do really is you're trying to hack into that network, that company's network, but the difference now is that you're doing so after being authorized by the company and the owners to do so. So they hired you to do so in order to check if there are any security issues with their network, with their system, with their setup, and report those issues back to them, along with how they can rectify these problems. Okay. Nowadays, this is something that is heavily needed in the Saudi market, okay, and as a matter, for the majority of the Middle Eastern countries, this is highly needed. Even in other countries, like for example in Europe and in North America and what have you, ethical hacking penetration testing is highly looked for, because companies typically, especially companies who are not in the area of technology, they just have a network to help them do their business. They don't know how to check for security problems they have. So this particular area is highly looked for in the job market, including here in Saudi Arabia. Just quickly, what is the process of doing ethical hacking and penetration testing? Basically, again, you're acting like a hacker, but now the difference between you and an actual hacker is that you're given the permission to do hacking for the purpose of identifying any security problems in the system. So the steps would be to do footprinting, looking for open ports, what are the different operating systems, and what have you, just to understand the setup of the network. Then you do research on vulnerabilities. There are websites that identify for you, okay, based on what you have discovered in the footprinting, you can do research about vulnerabilities within that system based on what you have discovered in the previous step. Then you exploit the vulnerabilities. So there are tools that after you identified certain vulnerabilities, you can exploit them just to prove that indeed they are exploitable. And then ultimately, you report back the vulnerabilities and remedies, or how to fix those vulnerabilities, those issues, back to the whoever hired you to do so. The setup for or the path for any ethical hackers is first you get certified as an ethical hacker, then you advance to being a security analyst, then you advance further to become a licensed penetration tester. With each advancement, you have more responsibilities, more things that you're capable of doing, and whatnot. Okay. Now, what are the different cybersecurity and jobs that are out there? If you get a degree or a certification in that area, you could become an information security analyst. You could be a lead software security engineer. You could be chief information security officer, security architect, penetration tester, information security crime investigator, forensic expert, and many more. Okay, for that matter. Right, to help you in getting this, what can you to get to that point? What can you do? You could take the basic course in computer and network security in our department, or in the ICS department as well. That will give you the building blocks. But if you want to further yourself, then obviously self-study is always important. But if you want to become a professional in this area, then you could try to get certifications, because certifications in the area of cybersecurity boosts your CV. And in some cases, certain jobs require you to already have certifications, certain certifications. So this is sort of a list. This is not a comprehensive list, but a sort of a list of the best cybersecurity certifications that are out there, that are available. Now, whether all or some or none of those are available here in Saudi Arabia, but they are available somewhere across the world. Some might allow you to do this online, especially with the COVID situation and what have you. But you could look for some of those certifications here in Saudi Arabia. I would imagine you might find some of those in Riyadh. And if interested, you could invest in that if you feel that this is a direction that you might be interested in for your job future. The last of the related fields to cybersecurity is a major one is digital forensics. What digital forensics is concerned with is application of technical knowledge to extract information from evidence while adhering to lawful process. What do you mean by this? How does it differ from security? Well, remember, security is concerned with achieving the minimum of CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And this is to secure sensitive information, okay? But what happens if something happened and the sensitive information or an incident took place where a system has been hacked into, information leaked out, what have you? We want to identify who was behind such an incident. And this is where forensics come into play. So forensics kicks in after the fact, meaning after or post-mortem, after something has happened, a cyber crime has happened. And now you're trying to collect evidence to find out who did that, when and where and how. So the area of digital forensics is concerned with trying to investigate a cyber crime, collecting evidence, analyzing it, to ultimately figure out who did what, where, and how, basically. This can be carried further, in some cases, into an actual criminal case that will be taken to court and will be followed up by law enforcement and what have you, or could be just limited to the private sector. A company wants to find out who from its employees have done this action, and maybe take either fire the person or demote the person or what have you, just to figure out who did that and how to prevent it in the future, and how they were able to do it, and so on. Okay, so the elements of digital forensics are, the two major elements are process and technical knowledge. Process means how to go about collecting the evidence and what have you, the different laws that are associated with it, and so on. The technical knowledge is the deep understanding of how to collect things, how technology works, how data is stored at the binary level, for example. Okay. What jobs can you get with forensics degree? You could get computer forensic, you could be computer forensics investigator, analyst, examiner, expert, malware analyst, computer crime investigator, any of those. Security consultant. And again, digital forensics is becoming a hot area in our region, as well as across the world. It's all, and especially with the newer technologies coming around. For example, industrial 4 or IR4, Internet of Things, Internet of Anything, unmanned vehicles. All these new technologies become sources or potential sources for cyber crimes that requires ultimately someone to investigate them. And this is not the area typically of law enforcement. They don't have the know-how to do it in the law enforcement. So this would be the spot where digital forensics can shine in. Okay. Again, similar to cybersecurity, we have many best digital forensics certifications. And here's the list. Some of them are based on vendor-specific tools that are used. Others are just generic without having to be specific about a particular tool. Again, these certifications help boost your CV. Some are required for certain job positions. So again, if you're interested in that field, you might want to invest into getting certifications in one of those highly sought for certifications. That's all that I have. Thank you for listening. I hope I didn't put you to sleep. And you're most welcome to ask any questions if you have any. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Doctor.
Assalamu alaikum.
I want to ask you about like if I have a certain account in a certain website or a company, and I want to sign in and use a password. Is that password relative to Cryptology? Like maybe the password is a key for the certain Cryptology, or it's not relative to that subject?
Well, passwords are typically used for the aspect of authentication, verifying your identity. And what is typically done with passwords is that they are fed. We haven't talked about this here. They are fed into a hash. So when you feed it into a crypto hash function, it results in something like a sum. The output hash function is then taken and compared against the value that is stored in a password file on that mail. And if there is a match, then you are authenticated. Otherwise, you are authenticated. Okay. So in a sense, you could think of a password as a key, but they are different than keys. Okay. And there are يعني underlying يعني subtle differences between passwords and keys relative to how people pick passwords versus how keys are selected.
Thank you, Doctor.
All right.
Yes, Doctor.
Yes.
I want to know about the CCNP from the Cisco. How it's different from CCNA?
Yeah, so this one is specific to security. Okay, so this is focusing on the aspect of security. So this is Cisco Certified Network Professional Security, and it focuses on aspects of security, obviously using Cisco platforms and Cisco solutions and what have you. So it's tailored towards their products. CCNA focuses only on networking. They don't deal with security.
So is it CCNA? Is it a prerequisite for CCNP or?
To be honest, I'm not sure, but I would imagine so. If you know Mr. Hakim, then you could ask him. He is more knowledgeable about it, or you could do just a simple Google on the topic, and it can you could get that answer. I would imagine that you need CCNA, but you could do without it. But I don't know the actual contents of CCNP to tell you whether CCNA is required or not.
Because I just said in Banda, it's they require they have a job and they require a CCNP certificate for employee.
Okay, I see. Yeah. Yeah. So you could start now to see how in the job market they, especially on the aspect of security or digital forensics, some positions they start to ask not only for college degrees but also certain certifications, okay? Because they want you to come in and directly start working on, especially if they have already Cisco platforms and products and what have you. They want you to start working based on that platform, such products and what have you, and achieve certain security requirements.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
كيف حالك دكتور؟
حياك الله.
يعطيك العافية. أنا بس عندي سؤال شوي خارجي بشكل بسيط. بالنسبة ل كان في تخصص شبكات قالوا لنا بيكون موجود، لكن ما شفنا أي مواد نزلت حتى 451 كلمناهم لحتى نزلوها
نعم.
فهل عندك أخبار عن هذا الأمر، وهل بيكون في مواد للشبكات السنة الجاية؟
هو الخطة إنه they were planning actually to get the concentration on computer networking approved this semester. بس طبعا الربكة اللي صارت خصوصا في موضوع تقديم الاختبارات وكذا. I don't know what is the current status of it, but if you want you can check with Dr. Tariq Shaltani, because he is in charge of that concentration. You could check with him to see the status of that, but the plan was to get it approved this semester so that we can start it the following semester in 2011.